Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Julian.
Morning, Paul. Morning, everyone.
Hope everyone's doing well in these very challenging times and very different sort of mixed bag of situations at the moment across the country and changing daily. I was just talking before offline to somebody else about a conversation I had with some people in Armidale on Friday and saying, they were saying how lucky they felt they'd been there, and literally within 24 hours they're in a 7-day lockdown. So very difficult times.
Last week we did this. I was in lockdown. You're in lockdown. I'm out of lockdown. You're in lockdown. Victoria's back in lockdown. So again,
very difficult.
I think we always start off with just letting everyone know that we are thinking of them, and you and I talk to a lot of hospitality businesses every week, just about the issues that they're going through. So we're here to help anybody, and sometimes it's just a conversation. So hearts out to the hospitality industry. 100%.
Yeah, that's right. I think business, any industry, can be lonely at times, and hospitality is no exception to that. But the one thing that I think we can all take solace from in these times is that as a community, generally, hospitality people really pull together when things are tough. And at the moment, that's definitely the situation. But a great point there that, if you feel that you need help, reach out. There's no shame in asking for help if you need it. And the community and our network are here to help in any way that we can. So, giving as much support as we possibly can, of course.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a phone call. I've got friends in tears, and people I know. Obviously, you and I come from the industry, and we've had businesses ourselves, and we're here to help in any way.
It's very difficult. Wherever you are, it's a challenging time, and I've got clients, as we've spoken about, Julian, Victoria, bouncing in and out of lockdown 6 times now, and as we know with the hospitality trade, short notice lockdown means a very quick pivot, and you're going to lose significant amounts of money on stock in most cases. It's very, very challenging. So anyway, we'll do what we can do, and hopefully what we're going to go through today will help any of you who are in a situation where you're maybe pivoting or maybe looking to change the staffing model, the structure, the setup of the business, which is around understanding and knowing how to work out and knowing what your break-even figure is. And I know Julian, we were just talking about this offline about how many different uses in different situations you might use this for.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I always talk about industry's best and what they do and how they do it to create sustainable businesses. And a break-even analysis, can be used at the beginning of your journey before you even buy a business or build a business. When you're operational, to understand what your costs are and just to check everything and what your break even is. And then when you're changing your model in an unfortunate situation like COVID, so you can understand what your new break even is. And so from a break even point of view, if we look at the very beginning, if you're buying a business or you're looking at building a business and starting a new lease, you should do a break even analysis. You should understand, okay, well, how many bums on seats do I need to serve to be able to make money? And it's not even just, we call it a break-even analysis, and you and I just had that conversation, Paul. It's a break-even analysis plus profit.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. It is very true that, it's great to know what the break-even is, but the break-even should not be the target. The break-even should be the bare bones minimum, and you should be aiming to obviously achieve and overachieve on that break-even figure, because there's no point of any of us running a business that just breaks even, right? We're in the business to obviously to make money, to provide for our families, and ultimately work on that exit strategy and exit plan to increase the value of the business. A lot of that comes from the profitability, both in a dollar value and in a percentage value. So you definitely need to be targeting much higher margins than what the break even is about. That having that knowledge of what the figure is, especially if you have to change, you have to pivot because of restrictions. So going from dine in to takeaway only, you need to know what do I need to hit. And I've worked with several clients where it just isn't viable. It's not viable to do it. So a crucial part of the process at any stage. And as we talked about offline as well, this is something, as you've said, that needs to be revisited. It's not a one-off done and dusted thing. It needs to change as your cost centers change, as your turnover changes, like wages going up, super going up, the rent going up, all of those adjustments need to be made in the same way that you do with menu costings. As suppliers change their prices, all of your menu costings become outdated. So this is a great thing to, not just do once and tuck away. How often would you look at this, Julian? What do you suggest?
I'd probably do quarterly again. Yeah. The other thing, you and I were talking before, is that, your rent goes up obviously every year, and that can range from, CPI to 3.5%, and in some circumstances 5%. We know electricity certainly hasn't gone down. So we know that
going down.
No, there's not much going down. So I would probably do this, just a quick snapshot quarterly, to make sure you're on track. And also, we've seen now in the industry where, let's say you were doing 20% Uber Eats or Menulog or DoorDash or whatever the third party providers. We've seen that swing. In some cases, I've seen that swing to 80%. That changes your break even model. So
yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, you've got to be on this regularly just to check, that you know your numbers and you're getting through your numbers.
That's right. Yeah, and those delivery partners, we all know they take a fair chunk of fee.
Far too much.
What exactly?
Far too much.
We probably shouldn't start on that one.
No, far too much.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, Paul, I think we're doing a live stream tomorrow night at 5:30. Which is on leases as well. And if anybody is in a situation where they're going to need to be negotiating a rent concession, which we'll touch on tomorrow, you need to know your break even.
100%.
If you walk into a meeting with a landlord and you're asking for a rent concession of 30, 40, 50, 60%, and they say, well, what's your break even? And you don't know, that's a real issue. So anybody who's obviously in the situation now that has some time and is not sure about their break even, this is a time to sit down and understand what that is. So, you are prepared.
Yeah, fantastic. That's it's interesting. Obviously, you've got a lot more insight into those negotiations and the retail leasing side of things than I have. Is it common for landlords to ask for that kind of information?
Well, they'll definitely ask for obviously a P&L so they can see whether what your losses are and what what your costs are, and part of that would definitely to understand how much you're losing a week. P&Ls is an extension of what we would look at here effectively, but it's a much larger modeling of what your business is doing, where this can give you a quick snapshot and you can say to the landlord, well, my break even's $8,000 a week, but I'm currently doing $5,000 and I'm losing $3,000. If you can do those numbers quickly, that goes a long way to be able to negotiate a better outcome. Yeah, if you stumble on that, the outcome's not going to be as good.
I think that's definitely something that we'll go into a bit more detail on the live tomorrow, specifically around commercial leases, because and that one, if you're interested in that one, you'll find that in both groups and the main GSE page. So make sure you click join event on that one. And we very much want that to be an interactive, as with any of these, an interactive process. So whether you're watching live or watching a replay, make sure if you've got any questions at all, you post in the comments below, and one of us will get back to you as best and quick as we can with answers to those questions, because it is something that sometimes you don't want to ask the question in a public forum, but feel free, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to post in the comments, send us a DM. We're more than happy to help out in any way that we can with anything to do with this or to do with the leases in the live at tomorrow at 5:30. But just going back to this one, Julian, so on that point of negotiation and so on, if you're at the front end going into a lease assignment or requesting a lease assignment, I think to your point about having this information to hand, and certainly to your knowledge for the landlord, is really useful to demonstrate that you've given this some thought and you're going into it with a plan. You know what the business needs to do. So this is what it needs to do, and then your business plan is going to show how you're going to execute that. And it really should form part of your initial plan, but also, as you've touched on, the ongoing running and maintenance. Looking under the hood of the business to see how it's tracking on a quarterly basis. Yeah,
definitely. And look, I'm happy to. I'll find a link to some research, but there's absolutely academic journals being written that businesses that plan grow 30% faster than businesses that don't.
Exactly.
And this falls into planning your business and knowing where you are. And we'll jump into the document in a minute, but this is not an overcomplicated document. It's quite easy to use for anybody who gets concerned about spreadsheet. But Paul's built another brilliant document here. That is quite simple to use. And, I think, planning really does allow you to make informed decisions and grow your business.
100%. And that, it's a very true point about the planning side of things. And we're big advocates for that, because we've seen it work with our own businesses as well as with our clients' businesses. And actually, I had a great call with a client yesterday who's, was almost resistant to planning prior to us working together. And now when you've got this structure in place and you're actually logging things on a regular basis and you're paying attention to the results that you're getting, it's like they say, as soon as you put focus on it, there's usually an improvement. So a very useful process from that side of things as well. So did you want to jump in and have a look?
Let's jump in.
Okay, so hopefully
let's jump in.
Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I can see that quite well. Yep.
Going the wrong way. There we go.
Yeah, that's better.
All right. So what we've got
this is available on the hub.
It is available to any hub members. You're going to find that. Let me just see if I can show you where that is. Where are we? Okay, so you're going to find that under run your business, and under, where are we? So under financial, you're going to find that. But as always, with anything like that, if you just go to the search and just type break even, you're going to find it in there.
Beautiful.
So feel free to download. What we're looking at now is the template download. And as Julian said, this is like with all of our resources, there's stuff going on in the background you don't need to worry about. We've tried to make it that you just put in the key information from your financials, and the magic happens in the background to give you the numbers and the detail that you need. So looking down the left-hand side is where you would put your scenario or your figures based on what your current figures are. We've kept this weekly because most people work on weekly numbers. The idea with this one is that you know what your target cost of goods is. So the reason we've done that is firstly to simplify things, but secondly, it just means that you can play around with this number and say, in this scenario, and we'll go into more detail on that in a minute, but in this scenario, you're targeting 30%, which is, as we know, industry benchmark, regardless of how you feel about that as a benchmark. But as that target, it then spits out over here what the break-even figure would be, allowing for GST and so on. But if you find that you're actually running and your cost of goods is at 35%, you can change that, and it shows you then that 8,300 break even actually goes to over 9,000. So that 5% difference in cost of goods or food costs, whichever you're tracking, makes a significant difference to the break even. So that one, be sure that you know, and I guess it's kind of forcing the hand to make sure you know what your current food cost percentage or cost of goods percentage is. So so part of the part of that is obviously your financial habits, where you'll know what your food costs are. But this is where you would use for a real swing in your business model using third-party deliveries. This is where you'd probably calculate, my cost of goods were 30%, but now obviously with delivery fees that have jumped up, I can start to allocate it here, and you can start to see where that your break even changes. Yeah, it's interesting that it depends how your bookkeeper or how you've set the accounting up. I've seen sometimes you get the bookkeeper will set it up so that the delivery partner, so Uber fees as an example, would be below the cost of goods line in the expense line. So you've really got to get your head around how that's being accounted for. Others, so sometimes there's two different ways that I've seen people doing that. So that's the first way, and the second way is that the net proceeds from Uber or Deliveroo is what gets entered into the sales line. So it does, It will be, that's something that's just come to mind. So if that's something that you're not sure about, feel free to get in touch with either myself or Julian, and we'll help you to work through that, depending on how you've got your P&L line set up.
Okay. So you can allocate it below the line, a little bit lower, or again, depending on how you're treating your sales too.
Look, strictly speaking, for me, it should be under cost of goods because it is a cost of goods. But it just depends how they like. If I'm working with a client that's got it set up like that, my suggestion would be same as consumables or packaging, that should go under cost of goods as a separate line in cost of sales or cost of goods. But yeah, make sure that that's something that's not being overlooked as there's a number of things that get missed or are accounted differently like that.
I think without opening a can of worms, because there is different ways to treat it. I think the discipline of we've always encouraged people that if they're doing third-party deliveries, that they cost their menu. And I think, using a menu calculator and costing what your fees are in the cost of goods, it's not a bad habit. It's a pretty good habit to understand that, that product now that the third party's delivering, I'm actually only making, 60% or 50% on that. So I think we're all about financial habits, and sometimes the financial habits may differ to the way your accountant, bookkeeper treats it. But as long as you know that number and where it's going and the effect it has on your profitability, that's the important thing.
That's the absolute key point, Julian. It doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't matter where it sits on the P&L. What's important is that you understand where it is, why it's there, and what's happening, and that you can accurately pinpoint what your cost of goods, what your food cost percentage is, so that if there is an issue, you can be on it and deal with it quite quickly. As quite rightly, just coming back to habits. And financial knowledge and financial understanding for me doesn't mean that you have to do all of it yourself, but I think you should understand how to do it, even if you're not doing it. So even if you learn how to do it, but you have someone else doing it, you can then, you can pick up on mistakes. Bookkeepers are only human. Make mistakes, and I've got a great bookkeeper, but she misses things every now and again. And I think because it's my money, same with anyone else, you pay a lot more attention than anyone else, so you pick up on things differently. So okay. So going back to the format then, so down the left-hand side, pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to enter what the costs are. And this, again, is where at the moment, you can work out if your model's changing. So if you're reducing your labor costs because you've gone to a takeaway only model, for example, and wouldn't it be nice to have $800 a week labor? If you drop it there, you can see the impact and the difference that it has on that. It's taken down from the 9,000 there to 7,900. So again, you can play around with this based on, as you said, Julian, with the rent. If there's an increase in the weekly rent, if that goes up, you're just going to every time you update this, you're going to see the impact that has then on the profitability and where you need to be to cover your costs. So you'll just go down there. These ones we've left that you can just change to be relevant to your business.
Give you some flexibility.
Everyone's got different costs that go through there. At the bottom, it gives you obviously the total of those operating costs. Food cost is factored in. So what you're spending in a dollar value on food doesn't sit in this total. This is your operating costs, excluding food costs. But that's taken into account as we move across this side. And then from there, as we said, that gives you your break even for a weekly, monthly, and annual basis. Excuse me, and shows you the break even point further down here. But I think, as Julian, you touched on in the early part of the session today, this figure here, that's not the goal, right? That's the break even. So, I mean, with your businesses, what were you tracking? What were you targeting? And the clients you work with now, what kind of goals have you got for a net margin?
Definitely 15% net profit target. Definitely. Okay. I think anything.
So that's 15% goal. After you've paid yourself a reasonable salary?
Yeah, it is. Yep. So 15% net profit on the business after you've taken out your wage working in the business. That's the target that I think a healthy business should be able to target. Definitely. Anything over. I mean, we always say target as much as possible, but I think the benchmark is 15. I think when you start doing 10%, Paul, is the room for error becomes smaller in terms of 10% becomes
can disappear very quickly.
Yeah, it becomes 8, it becomes 7, 6, and before you know it, you're not making much money at all. So, we've talked about this before. Is a lot of hospitality businesses, you might have got in it because you love the industry, which we all do, but you need to make money, and don't be scared. I don't think it should be something you should be scared to say out loud, and own, to say, hey, I need a return on my investment.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
like we talked about, like I'm always banging on about, this is where the value of your asset that's taken a lot of financial and physical investment from you. This is what drives the value, a very big part of it,
Yeah.
So it is and should be one of the main focuses. And I think that 15% is pretty in line with the way that I look at it. What I will do though is, if you've got, let's say that the role that you're doing, you would pay somebody else 60, 70, 80,000 to do. You're paying yourself more than that, then I tend to make an allowance for the overpayment from me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's quite difficult. You don't want to add it all back, but if you're overpaying yourself, during good times, then you need to factor that in as well.
Yeah, there's probably tax. Yeah. There's tax benefits taken to that as profit as well. Anyway, we won't get too involved in that.
Don't start me on that.
No, we won't get too involved in that. But I mean, I think again, you just that target of taking out 15% on net profit should be there, and challenging yourself to know what that figure is and really going for it. Paul, just to go back, if you go back down to the bottom where you've got your total operating costs. Right. That's a 4,730 is, and you would have found this as well, is that a lot of the time in the industry, people, and this is why this document's so fantastic, is they'll get that figure in their head, and let's call it $5,000, and they're like, I need to do $5,000. Well, no, that's your operating. That just goes out every single week. I just really wanted to make a point in it, because I've heard people a few times not
that's
really
a great point.
Understand that I need to do 8,000.
No, that's a fantastic point, because people work out what their expenses are and then forget that they're not making like that dollar coming in the till. If you're running at the 30% food cost, you've already lost 10% to GST as soon as the dollar hits the till. Then you've got to pay the food costs on top of that. So that really is that's a great pickup, because that is a very common thing that people know what the rent is, they know what the wages are, and like you said, you get a figure in your mind and think, okay, that's what I need to take. But you've got to work out the GST for a start, and then the food cost percentage. And as we demonstrated there, that change, if we start working together and your business is at 35%, and at that point, you need $8,000 a week to break even. If we can work on this as one thing and bring that down, even say 3% to 32, that immediately drops your break even down significantly. So and that's without any change to that figure. So you're not bringing any more money or necessarily taking in or paying out anymore, but your break even changes just based on that one metric.
Yeah. So, I think this is where you start to know your numbers, and this is a really easy spreadsheet to use. It's really, really easy to input your expenses, and then just understand what you need to turn over on a week. Really powerful information. Yeah,
it is. I used it yesterday actually with a client as a forecasting tool based on them backing out and somebody else coming in and doing more hours. So their payroll increasing from where it was. And obviously then working out, well, what's the impact? What's the change? How much more business or are you going to need to do?
Do I need to
cover those expenses? So it is, as you said, designed to be simple to use, but if you use properly and most importantly consistently, it's going to add significant value to the business for you.
I think again, I won't go on it too much, but understanding this and then having to present to landlord, or you're looking at opening up a second site, Paul, or third site, having all this information and understanding, it just gives you so much power to make correct decisions.
Absolutely.
What you and I find is a lot of the time we're dealing with people, they're in the business and they're blinded by, obviously just making it work, and they're not sure of the numbers. And this just really allows you to stop for a second. It's quick to use, and have a quick breath and understand, okay, well, these are my targets. And as you said before, Paul, about setting a target, if you set your target, you're going after a number, and you've got a hard number that you need to get to.
I think you should. There should be, in my preference is that you always have a stretch goal. So you work out, in this instance, all right, that shouldn't be a goal, but that's your break even. You should be pushing, and I don't know, like with the clients you're working with and what you see, Julian, I see a a lot of businesses at 10% or below. So my top performing clients are over 20%. So it is possible.
Yeah, wow. So it's achievable. Yeah.
It is achievable. It is. It's not easy. It's not easy, but and what it is, all we've talked about is that financial knowledge, the understanding, and regular follow-up, regular checks, making sure that you're paying attention to all of the little things that add up to make a big difference. But that goal should be, as you said, at least 15%, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's not worth it. But this process, I remember the first time I did this back in the 90s. When I'd had a year where I thought I'd done well. I'd taken a lot of money, but I hadn't made much profit. And I did this in a very old school pen and paper kind of way and worked it out. And it was a very confronting experience. I realized that, the business model I was running with was a great model for all the employees, everyone that was working for me, and absolutely terrible for myself. I was working more than anybody else and earning less. And so that understanding made me think, okay, well, hang on a minute, something needs to change here. And from there, you start paying more attention to other things. So it can be a good catalyst to really drive best practice, I guess.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. 100%, to understand these numbers and to realize that you've worked all that time and not made money, not aware of your break even is, it's heartbreaking sometimes. The thing about it, Paul, the thing about the hospitality industry and my background early days before I said I'd never be in hospitality because my parents had hospitality businesses, was I worked at Nike and Fila in the sporting industry and retail, right? So when you're in a retail business, you have to buy your Nike footwear or fashion items almost 6 months in advance, right?
Wow.
You have to pre-book your stock because it's made offshore, comes on a boat, comes in here. In hospitality, you can change your menu and your business model literally overnight. Yeah, and so when you realize that you're wage heavy, labor heavy, or your margins are not right, you can literally change your menu, make a few changes to your business model, and all of a sudden you can affect your bottom line. That's why I love the industry. You can move really quickly. A lot of other retail businesses,
ability to adapt and pivot. It's true. Isn't it? Very, very true.
So this information is on a Monday. You can have a look at this and realize that, you're not making enough money and you can make some changes really quickly. And by the end of the week, you can actually see a change.
Have it fixed. And that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like what we're trying to do is to encourage people to check things regularly so that you don't go too long a period. If there is an issue, if you have got something that's not right, you're picking up on it firstly, but secondly, you're in a position where you can adapt and pivot, as you've said, and change, almost overnight. So that will only start with that knowledge of exactly what's happening at the front end.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Good stuff. Well, that's hopefully given you a better insight into how the break-even calculator can be used, but more importantly, I guess, about why you should do it and the benefits of doing it. So if you do have any questions, as always, just feel free to post in the comments or come back to Julie and I on DM or via email, whatever works for you. If you're inside the hub, then obviously you've got access to these tools and others. And if you've got any specific questions about that, there's a comment section in the hub as well. You can post in all the help there. So plenty of ways to get in touch. And hopefully you'll see the benefit and the upside of doing this. And we'd love to get your feedback and questions if you need any help in actually executing this for your business.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
And look, as you see, sort of scrolling along the bottom of the screen at the moment, we're running the 30-day financial challenge. So know your numbers. We're running that from next Monday. If you're already inside the hub, then everything's going to be delivered in the hub. We're running 4 workshops on Mondays, and that will be at 4:30 from memory. Yep. Hopefully that's right. But 4:30 on a Monday. Julie and I will be going through different aspects, and we'll get the outline posted in the group later today. but we'll cover one topic each week. And then on a Thursday, we're going to have a live Q&A session follow-up. So if you've got stuck or you're not quite sure about something that we've covered on the Monday, if we haven't been able to answer questions in the comments, we'll jump on live and we'll help you out to make sure that you keep moving on the Thursday. So we'd love to have you join us for that. If you've got other people that you know that this might be useful for as well, then the main GSE Facebook page, you'll find a link to the financial challenge there. And again, otherwise, if you can't find that, just get in touch and we'll happily send that out for you.
Yeah, it'll be a good sort of 30 days just to get to know your numbers, and we'll be there through the whole process. So we'll be helping people, talking to people, and putting these financial habits in place. So yeah, it's exciting.
Hopefully I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be going to be good to go through this in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Julian, thanks as always for your time, and thank you for joining us. And as I said, any questions, whether you've watched live or whether you're watching a replay, feel free just to post in the comments below.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Awkward silence.
Yeah.